Picture this. You walk into a dealership on a Saturday afternoon. You've done your homework. You've spent 3 weeks on Edmunds, Car Gurus, TrueCar. You know exactly what the car should cost. You've got your pre-approval letter from your credit union sitting right there in your back pocket. You feel ready. You feel prepared. And then the finance manager slides a sheet of paper across the desk, and the number on it is $4,000 higher than every single thing you researched online. You ask why? He says, oh, market conditions, supply chain. Everyone's paying this right now. And here's the part that stings. You believe him because maybe everyone is paying this. You don't actually know. You can't call the last 10 people who bought this exact car and compare notes. So you sign. You drive home. You feel a little uneasy, but you tell yourself you got a good car and you move on. Here's the thing though. You didn't just lose $4,000 that afternoon. Financed over 72 months at the average new car interest rate right now, which as of late 2024 is sitting around 7.1% according to Edmunds, that $4,000 markup costs you over $5,300, and you will never get it back. Now, multiply that by the fact that the average American buys somewhere between 9 and 13 cars in their lifetime, and you start to understand why this matters. What happened to you at that dealership wasn't bad luck. It wasn't market conditions. It was an algorithm. And today, we're going to prove it with actual math. My name is Rayhan, and today we're going to run the actual math on how artificial intelligence has fundamentally changed the car buying game, and almost nobody is talking about it the right way. We're going to look at how dealerships are using dynamic pricing AI right now in real time to extract maximum money from every single buyer who walks through the door. We're going to look at what's it actually costing you over the lifetime of a car loan. And then, because I'm not here just to scare you, we're going to talk about exactly how you fight back, step by step. If you've bought a car in the last 3 years and felt like something was off, this video is going to explain exactly what happened. And if you're about to buy a car, this might be the most important 12 minutes of financial education you watch this year. Let's get into it. Okay, so first, let's establish some baseline history here, because I think this context is going to make everything else land harder. For most of the 20th century, car pricing was relatively straightforward. Manufacturers set a manufacturer-suggested retail price, the MSRP, and dealers negotiated somewhere around that number. There was markup, there was dealer holdback, there were incentives. It was imperfect, it definitely favored the dealer, but it was stable. The price of a 2003 Honda Accord on a Tuesday was roughly the price of that same car on a Friday. You could go home, sleep on it, come back the next day, and the number hadn't changed. That world is gone. Here's what's replaced it. Starting in the early 2010s and accelerating massively after 2020, dealerships, especially large dealer groups, began implementing what the industry calls dynamic pricing software. The names you'll see if you dig into the trade press are things like vAuto, DealerSocket, TrueCar Dealer, and a company called Lotam. These platforms use machine learning to continuously analyze real-time data and tell dealers exactly what the market will bear for any specific vehicle on any given day. And when I say real-time, I mean real-time. These systems are pulling in data from competing dealerships' listings, private sale platforms, regional search volume on car buying sites, local economic indicators, even the weather. I'm not making that up. A 2022 paper from the National Bureau of Economic Research found that used car prices fluctuate more on weekdays versus weekends, more in summer versus winter, and more in regions with higher income zip codes, all of which these systems are designed to exploit. This is where it gets really interesting, and also where it gets kind of disturbing. Let me give you a simplified version of how this actually works, because I think most people have a vague sense that dealerships use data without understanding the mechanism. When you walk onto a dealership lot, or more importantly, when you browse their website, the data collection has already started. Your IP address tells you your general location, the device you're using, the browser, the time of day. All of that is logged. If you've ever clicked on a car listing on any major platform, there's a reasonable chance that information is being aggregated and sold to dealer networks. These aren't conspiracy theories. This is standard third-party data brokering. The FTC put out a report in 2023 specifically addressing data collection practices in the automotive retail sector. So by the time you sit down in that chair across from a salesperson, the software they're using has already made some inferences about you, where you live, what your household income bracket likely is, whether you've been shopping for 30 days or 3 days, because urgency, or lack thereof, changes your price. Now here's the really uncomfortable part. That information feeds into a pricing recommendation engine. The dealer isn't necessarily picking a number out of thin air or even negotiating negotiating in good faith the way you think they are. In many cases, there's a screen, sometimes visible to you, often not, that is literally telling the salesperson what price point to start at for this specific buyer profile. It's not personal, it's algorithmic, but the outcome is deeply personal to your wallet. Cox Automotive, which is one of the largest automotive data companies in the world, published research showing that the average gross profit per new vehicle retail sale in the United States hit $4,174 in the first quarter of 2023. That's up from an average of about $1,800 before the pandemic. That profit didn't materialize because cars got more expensive to build by that margin. It materialized because dealers got much better at capturing maximum value from each transaction, and AI is a huge part of why. All right, I promised you math. Let's do the math. I want to walk through a real scenario with real numbers, because I think this is where most financial content fails people. They give you a percentage and expect you to feel something. I want you to feel the dollars leaving your bank account. Let's say you're buying a mid-size SUV. We'll use a 2024 Toyota RAV4 because it's one of the most commonly purchased vehicles in America. Toyota sold over 400,000 of them just in 2023. The MSRP on a base XLE trim is right around $32,000. Scenario A, pre-AI, pre-pandemic pricing environment. 2018. You walk in, you've done your research, you negotiate. A competent buyer in 2018 could typically get somewhere between 2 and 3% off MSRP on a popular model, or at minimum pay MSRP. Let's say you pay $32,000 flat. You put $3,000 down, you finance $29,000 at 4.5%, which was a reasonable rate in 2018, over 60 months. Your monthly payment, $540. Total interest paid, $3,391. Total cost of vehicle, $35,391. Scenario B, AI-assisted dynamic pricing. 2024, same car, but now the AI system has flagged that RAV4 inventory in your region is tight, only 4 units on the lot. Regional search volume for RAV4 is up 18% this month. You came in on a Saturday afternoon, which the system knows is a high conversion window. The software recommends a market adjustment of $3,500 over MSRP, so your out-the-door price is $35,500. You put $3,000 down, you finance $32,500 at 7.1% because rates went up over 72 months. Your monthly payment, $556. Total interest paid, $7,519. Total cost of vehicle, $43,019. Now let me just let that sink in for a second. Same car, same buyer, roughly 7 years apart. The difference in total vehicle cost is $7,628. And if you'd taken that $7,628 and invested it instead at the S&P 500's historical average of about 10% annually, over the remaining 20 years of your working life, that single transaction cost you over $51,000 in future wealth. One car, one Saturday afternoon, $51,000. That's why this matters. Now, you might be thinking, Rehan, I'm not going to fall for a $3,500 markup. I'll just walk out. Look, I hear you. And I want to challenge that because research tells us that most people, including financially literate people, don't actually do that. And here's why. There's a concept in behavioral economics called anchoring. It was documented extensively by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, and it basically says that the first number you hear in a negotiation becomes the psychological reference point for everything that follows. It doesn't matter if that number is arbitrary. It doesn't matter if you know it's arbitrary. It still shapes your perception of what's reasonable. So when a dealer opens at $36,000 and then comes down to $34,200 after some back and forth, you feel like you won. You negotiated. You saved $1,800. Except the car should have been $32,000. You didn't save $1,800. You overpaid $2,200. But it doesn't feel that way because your brain is measuring against the anchor, not against the actual market value. The AI system knows this. The pricing software is designed to set anchors, not just prices. Here's what most people don't realize. The negotiation you think you're having isn't actually a negotiation. It's a script. It's been A/B tested. The "let me go talk to my manager" move, that's not actually a conversation with a manager half the time. It's a cooling off tactic that research shows increases close rates by giving the buyer time to psychologically accept the first anchor. There's also something called loss aversion, the psychological finding, also from Kahneman's work, that losing something feels about twice as painful as gaining the same thing feels good. Dealers exploit this constantly. I can only hold this price until end of day. There's another buyer coming in at 4 p.m. This incentive expires Friday. Whether or not any of that is true, the feeling of potentially losing the car is more emotionally powerful than the rational calculation of whether the price is fair. And the AI systems are specifically calibrated to create and time these urgency triggers. Look, I'm not saying every salesperson is a villain. Most of them are just doing their job within a system. The system is the problem. And that system is now powered by machine learning that has analyzed millions of transactions to figure out exactly how to maximize extraction from human psychology. That's the uncomfortable truth.
Here's the thing that makes this even worse. The dynamic pricing on the vehicle itself is only the first hit. The second hit comes in the finance office, and this is where AI has gotten particularly sophisticated. When you sit down with the finance and insurance manager, the F&I manager, they have access to your credit profile, your pre-approval if you brought one, and often proprietary data about your financial history through platforms like Route 1 or DealerTrack, which are software systems used by most major dealerships. Now here's what most people think. I came in with a pre-approval at 6.5% from my credit union, so I'm protected, and that's partially true. But here's what the F&I manager also knows, that dealerships get what's called a dealer reserve when they sell you financing through their lender partners. That means if they can talk you out of your credit union loan and into their financing, even if theirs is technically at a higher rate, they make additional money on the back end. According to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, dealer reserve markups cost consumers an estimated $25.8 billion in extra interest payments in 2021 alone. $25.8 billion. And the AI component here is this. The F&I software can model in real time what the maximum interest rate is that it can present to your specific credit profile while still having a reasonable probability that you accept. It's not guessing, it's optimizing. It knows that someone who came in with a pre-approval is harder to move, so it focuses on other F&I products, extended warranties, gap insurance, paint protection, where margins are often 400 to 800%. Let me do some quick math on just the extended warranty piece, because I want you to really see this. The average extended warranty sold at a dealership costs around $2,000 to $4,000. The dealer's cost on that product is typically $500 to $800. The rest is gross profit. If that $3,000 warranty gets rolled into your loan at 7.1% over 72 months, you're paying roughly $4,130 total for a product that costs the dealer about $600 to provide. That's a 588% markup, financed. And you know what? The AI system has calculated that the optimal time to present the warranty is after you've already mentally committed to the car, but before you've technically signed. It times the pitch to your psychological state. This is documented in F&I training materials. I've read them. Now maybe you're thinking, okay, I'll just buy used to skip all this new car nonsense. I wish I could tell you that solves it. It doesn't. In some ways, it makes it worse. Here's why. The used car market is almost entirely opaque by nature. There's no MSRP. Every single unit is different mileage, different condition, different history. This opacity is paradise for dynamic pricing AI because there's no obvious reference point for what fair even looks like. Carvana, CarMax, Vroom, and increasingly the large dealer groups all use algorithmic pricing on their used inventory. These systems update prices, in some cases, multiple times per day. A car listed at $24,900 on Monday morning might be $25,450 by Thursday afternoon if search traffic on that model spiked. The car didn't change. The algorithm decided demand went up, so the price went up. There's a study from IC Cars, a data analytics company that tracks automotive pricing trends, that found used car prices in 2023 were still running 30 to 40% above their pre-pandemic historical averages, even after the post-2022 correction. Part of that is genuine supply constraints, but part of it is that dealers and large platforms got a taste of elevated margins during the chip shortage years, implemented dynamic pricing AI to capture those margins, and haven't turned it off. Why would they? It works. And the really sneaky thing about used car AI pricing is this. It can differentiate between a buyer who is browsing and a buyer who is ready to act. If you visited the same listing 4 times in the last 48 hours, which the platform knows, you've essentially told the algorithm you're emotionally attached to that car. Some platforms are sophisticated enough to show you a slightly higher price on your 4th visit than they showed you on your 1st.
A/B testing on individual human buyers in real time. I want to be precise here. Not every platform does this, and it's hard to prove in any individual case. But the technical capability exists, the incentive exists, and there are documented examples of it in other retail sectors, like hotels and airlines. The automotive sector is not immune. Okay, I've spent most of this video explaining how you're getting outmaneuvered. Let me spend the rest of it talking about how you fight back, because you absolutely can. I think about this in 3 layers. Layer 1, information asymmetry. The AI beats you because it knows more than you do, so the first job is to close that gap as much as possible before you ever walk into a dealership or click submit on an online quote form. Step 1 is to use competing quotes as a weapon, not a backup. Most people get 1 or 2 quotes and feel informed. The dealers know this. What actually moves the needle is getting 7 to 10 quotes in writing from different dealerships on the exact same vehicle configuration. Same trim, same color, same packages. Not verbal quotes, written quotes with an out-the-door price including all fees. When you have 10 written quotes, a few things happen. First, you statistically find the outliers, the 2 or 3 dealers who are pricing significantly below the cluster. Second, you have leverage. You can email dealer number 4 and say, I have an out-the-door quote for $31,200 from another dealer. Can you beat it? That question in writing is extremely hard for a dealership to dodge without losing the sale entirely.
There are services that help automate this. TrueCar, Cars Direct, AAA for members. They're not perfect, but they do compress the information gap. The second thing you need to understand is true market value versus MSRP versus dealer invoice. Edmunds publishes what they call true market value pricing, which represents actual transaction prices, not what dealers are asking, but what people are actually paying. This is the number you want. If a dealer is asking more than Edmunds TMV for a vehicle, you have a factual, documentable basis for pushing back. Layer 2, financing independence. Before you ever walk into a dealership, you need financing arranged independently, not as a backup plan, as your primary plan. Get pre-approved through your credit union, not a bank, a credit union, because they typically offer better rates on auto loans. The national average credit union auto loan rate for a 60-month used car loan is currently running about 1.5 to 2 percentage points lower than bank rates. On a $28,000 loan, that's roughly $1,100 to $1,400 in interest savings over the life of the loan. When you walk in with pre-approved financing, you change the dynamic fundamentally. You're no longer a full profit opportunity for the F&I office. You're a cash buyer, essentially. And that means you can negotiate the car price entirely separately from financing, which is how it should always work. Here's the thing. If the dealer offers you financing that genuinely beats your pre-approval by more than half a percentage point, consider it, but run the full numbers yourself on your own calculator before you agree to anything in that office. And on extended warranties, if you want one, buy it aftermarket from companies like CarChecks, Endurance, or through your credit union's protection plans. The coverage is often comparable and the price is frequently 40 to 60% lower than what the F&I office charges. Layer 3, timing and behavioral tactics. This is the layer most people skip, and it's actually really powerful once you understand the psychology at play. The best time to buy a car is the last few days of the month, and specifically the last day. Dealerships have monthly sales quotas that affect everything: factory allocations, manager bonuses, manufacturer incentive tiers. On the last day of the month, a dealer who is 2 units short of a tier is highly motivated to close deals, even at thinner margins. This isn't myth, it's documented in dealer management system data and has been written about extensively in Automotive News and Ward's Auto. Similarly, end of model year, typically late summer and early fall, creates surplus inventory pressure that is genuinely consumer-friendly. If a dealer has a lot full of 2024 models and the 2025s are starting to arrive, the AI system's own logic works in your favor. It detects oversupply and adjusts pricing downward. Also, and this is important, do your browsing from a private or incognito window. Clear cookies before you visit any automotive site. Use a VPN if you're technically comfortable doing so. I'm not saying you can fully opt out of data collection, but you can meaningfully reduce the fingerprint the AI has on you as a buyer. Less data means less precise targeting. Finally, be willing to walk away, and be willing to do it slowly. Don't storm out, don't make it dramatic. Simply stand up, say, I need to think about it, and go to your car.
The research on deal psychology is very clear. A buyer who walks out has significant re-engagement leverage. Most dealerships will follow up within 24 to 48 hours, and that follow-up often comes with a better number than anything they offered in the room. I want to zoom out for a minute because I think the car conversation is actually just a proxy for something much larger that I care deeply about. Here's the thing with cars that makes them uniquely dangerous from a wealth-building perspective. They're the one major purchase where we've been culturally conditioned to accept getting taken advantage of. We tell ourselves it's normal. We say that's just how dealerships work. We negotiate for 30 minutes, lose $2,000, and then feel proud of ourselves. Meanwhile, we'd spend 3 hours comparison shopping for a $200 appliance. The average American household will spend somewhere between $600,000 and $900,000 on vehicles over their lifetime when you add up all the purchases, all the insurance, all the maintenance, all the financing costs. That is a genuinely staggering number. For most people, it's the second biggest category of lifetime spending after housing. And unlike a house, which historically appreciates, a car starts losing value the moment you drive it off the lot. The average new car loses about 15 to 25% of its value in the first year alone, according to Carfax data, which means every dollar you overpay at purchase is a dollar you will never, ever recover. Here's what most people don't realize. The difference between a person who is financially comfortable at 60 and a person who is struggling at 60 often isn't income. It's the accumulation of small, recurring financial decisions made over decades. Car purchases are one of those recurring decisions, and in the AI era, the stakes of making uninformed decisions have gotten dramatically higher. The system isn't designed to help you. It never was, but it's gotten a lot smarter, which means you need to get smarter too.
I want to close with something that goes beyond tactics, because I think mindset is actually the root issue here. Most people walk into a car purchase thinking, how do I get a good deal? I want you to start thinking, how do I remove myself from their pricing model? Those are very different questions. The first question assumes you're playing on their court with their rules and you're just trying to minimize your losses. The second question is about opting out of the system as much as possible. Opting out looks like buying a 2 to 4-year-old used car with 30,000 to 50,000 miles from a private seller where there's no F&I office, no AI pricing engine, just two people negotiating a transaction. Private party used cars sell for an average of 15 to 20% less than dealer prices for equivalent vehicles, according to data from IC Cars and Car Gurus. Opting out looks like keeping your car longer. The average American keeps a new car for about 8.5 years, but the math on vehicle cost per year gets dramatically better the longer you hold. A $35,000 car kept for 15 years has an average annual depreciation cost about 40% lower than the same car kept for 8 years. Opting out looks like treating the car purchase as a financial transaction, not a lifestyle statement. The AI systems that are pricing cars are calibrated on the psychology of aspiration. They know that people pay more for things that feel like identity purchases. A car is transportation. It doesn't need to reflect who you are. It needs to get you from point A to point B reliably. The cheapest reliable transportation that serves your actual needs is almost always the right financial answer. Now, am I saying everyone should drive a beater forever? No. I'm saying that you should make the decision consciously, with full awareness of what it costs, rather than letting an algorithm make it for you. Look, I know this was a lot, and I know some of it was uncomfortable, but here's the thing. None of what I told you today is secret. The dealerships know it, the tech companies building these pricing platforms know it. The only people who don't know it are the buyers sitting in the chair across the desk. And that information gap is costing American households tens of thousands of dollars per lifetime. It's contributing to the record $1.6 trillion in outstanding auto loan debt in the United States right now, as of 2024. It's one of the quiet reasons why people who make decent money still feel financially behind, because they're being algorithmically extracted from every major purchase point, and nobody's explaining how it works. So consider this your explanation. The 3 things I want you to do this week if you're in the market for a car or even thinking about it. Number 1, get pre-approved at a credit union before you do anything else. Number 2, get at least 7 written out the door quotes on the specific vehicle you want.
Number 3, read one resource, either Edmunds' Car Buying Guide or the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's Auto Loan Guide, both of which are free, so you understand dealer financing mechanics before you ever sit in that F&I chair. That's it. Those 3 things will protect you from the majority of what I described today. If this video helps you see something differently, share it with someone who's about to buy a car. Genuinely, this is the kind of information that can change a financial trajectory, and most people aren't going to find it on their own. I'll see you in the next one.